Hello, and welcome back to Tales from the Grim on this fine Sunday evening, afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in, maybe morning. Hello to all of you out there. We are back playing Skychasers, and tonight will be our mid-season finale, so expect things to go bad. Or maybe they won't. You have the opportunity to interfere with this game. Check out below for all of those fun options. And as always, remember to hit that retweet and let people know we've gone live and what we're up to here if you're enjoying the show. There is, of course, the clip button that you can also use too when we pull funny faces, make dramatic statements, and more. Thanks, as usual, to Greg and Tales for the Grim for having us here. I'm very excited. And without any further ado, let's get in to the adventure. When last we left, we were in the Kavanaugh kitchen, a simple home in South Florida. The fan overhead was whirring down, stirring slower and slower the swampy evening air. Harvey's half-eaten dinner was now lukewarm, and the ketchup, which had been glossy, was now dull as it was smeared across the plate. No one's paying attention to the food, though. Half of those assembled in the kitchen stare up at the fan as it makes its loathsome last rotations, and the other half stare towards the kitchen window. Harvey's surrounded by strangers. They're FBI. They're investigating his article. That was a sign that everything he hoped was true. Flying saucers, life beyond Earth. This wasn't about believing, this was about facts, and he had facts, and they'd found his story. And over at the window, the orbs were here too. Flashing. Twice green, once red. They were here for him. They were here to show him the way. Chris is looking up at the fan. Its final rotations, counting the blades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 threes. 3 strikes and you're out. 5 men out. 15 strikes. 5 runs. The 6th was the hit from the boy Don. 15 and 6. 15 minutes and 6 seconds were missing. That's 906 seconds. 9 and 6. 9 and 6 equals 15. 15 and 6. That's 21. Blackjack. 2 and 1. That's 3. There were 3 letters in the name Eve. They buried her as Eve Doe. That's 6 letters. No, not buried. She needed to find her way home. She couldn't be below the ground where they couldn't find her. Where was Betty? Not here. The numbers said this was the place, but she wasn't here. 5 letters in Betty. 5 multiplied by 3. 15. 15 and 6. What did it mean? Where did the ball go? There was a mosquito tasting the smeared ketchup, its little whining buzz catching Robert's ear as it took off. The engine in the fan sputtering out its last. Maybe it was on a timer though, maybe it wasn't dead. It's just a machine. Machines didn't die. It was too warm in here though. And this kid didn't know anything else about these orbs than what he'd put in the paper. And what the coaches said about his family. His uncle was his father and the kid didn't know. And all the pictures were of this other guy and his mum. Family drama wasn't the business of the FBI. Sure, it was weird. But Robert was here for the orbs. He was here to find answers. What was the point in all this, anyway? The engine. The engine of the plane was starting in the neighbor's field. Everything's made so much more sense when he was in a plane. His head throbbed. He was still healing from where he'd been hit in Muddy. It had been Maggie that had asked Ira why he'd run, why he'd attacked a federal agent, asked him to repeat the account of what had happened with the girl in the road. All that work to run down this man, and he refused to say anything. He just sat there, silent. He'd faced jail time. He'd committed multiple crimes. Running, assaulting a federal agent. Still, he was just silent. When Robert had given up and Maggie was just about to, she'd turned to leave, and then she'd heard it. The screaming. And then she'd seen it as she closed her eyes to try and block out the sound. that bright light, that glint of metal, the screaming, it all went around and around in her head like a migraine attack. And then a man's voice. Try to lie to us again, Mr. Hobbs. Try. Go on. I'm sorry, Agent. I made a mistake. But what I told them about the girl, that was the truth. And I don't know any more than that. Ira had spoken, moved his lips. That voice was in this room, not the other one. But Maggie could only think of the light. The bright light. It was at the end of this all. There'd been a light on the bridge, a light that flashed when a train was coming. It was red. The light on the tunnel, flashing on and off, red, its warning signal. Across the room by the sink, beside the window, the orb flashed red. She couldn't let this one escape. She couldn't fail again. They were all so close to something. She had to follow the light. Maggie collides with the kitchen sink and watches the orb, now dancing outside, across the neighborhood, still flashing red. And in the scene of staring people full of thoughts, a voice cuts through from the radio.
Brothers and sisters, I am reminded at this time of John chapter 15, verse 3. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. The Father prayed unto them, and he was taken unto the sky and cleansed of all his sins and sent back down to walk among men and preach the word, just like Betty was taken up into the sky and will be cleansed of all her sins. So too, if you pray unto them, will you be taken, brothers and sisters.
And Maggie, as you watch the orb float out, you see it collide with a woman making her way back to the Kavanagh house. You see the woman drop to the ground, laying against the grey, hard tarmac. The engine of the plane in the field next door whirs louder and louder. What do you all do?
Maggie's going to go running outside to the woman who's just dropped. Can she still see the orb, or is that gone?
Okay, Maggie is running. What are you doing, Mel?
Harvey was going to run after it, and he would probably follow Maggie to the woman if he saw him.
Okay. Maggie and Harvey break out of the front door, running around the house to the side. And Harvey, you see your mother, Carol, laying down on the tarmac, her face heavy with perspiration, her hair clinging to the sides of her cheeks.
Mom! And I run over, kneel down. Mom, are you okay?
It's just so hot. She's woozy. The color has drained from her face, save for the flush red of her cheeks. And you hear the rising sound of insects, crickets, mosquitoes, all manner of bugs. And as you look up, Maggie, looking for that orb, you see it. It's moving on down the street.
Can Maggie try to run after it and grab it?
Yeah, why don't you make me an agility check, unless you have a special run statistic and skills. I
don't think I have one for running. No, I'll just make a... Is it agility, you said?
Yep. That's your characteristic.
Which one is that? I can't...
It might be Dex. Let me have a look. Oh, sorry, it's Dex.
It's Dex.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, it's Dex.
That's all right. Oh, no, that's a fail.
Okay, so as you run, it hits you how thick the air is out here, how hot it is as it pushes in around you. And you run a short distance, but soon it's just too much, and you feel a weakening within you. But still, the red orb continues on. It's no more than 10 feet, and it almost seems to pause and wait, blinking. What are Robert and Chris doing?
I think I would straight up follow Maggie, yelling after her. And then coming to her when she's just stopped, looking around, and then I guess looking at the orb itself, having kind of half missed it in the kitchen.
Yes, when the orb had arrived in the kitchen, you hadn't seen it. But now as you follow Maggie and you look to see what she was chasing, you see it there, hovering. It's smaller than the one that you remember, but there's something about its presence that is familiar to you. And I need you to make a sanity check. Harvey, your mother is stirring. She seems weak, but she just says the heat had gotten to her as she'd come back from visiting her friends.
He tries to help her stand and puts his shoulder under her arm. Let's get you inside, Mom.
It was so strange. I've never seen a glow bug so big. And she'll go with you towards the house. What is Chris doing?
Counting everything. He's just as you described him before. The blades on the fan, the moments, the steps that are taken as Maggie rushes out and kind of collides for a moment. He's constantly recalculating as he looks to see if there's a pattern. That 15 and 6, the three strikes, 5, all that's going through his mind as he thinks, strike 3. And he knows that all of this has something to do, especially with the radio announcement that just, approached, and he's trying to put it all together. So anything that bears a numerical or even a iconography or symbology in the kitchen itself, a clock, if there's a clock present, he's going to check to see what time it is on the clock, if it's correct by his time or correct by what everyone else keeps. He's looking for anything that he can possibly glean from this space that could add to his equation.
Okay, I'm going to call that a spot hidden check, please.
Very good.
And Robert, you lose 1 point of sanity as you stare at this orb, and it blinks at you, and it blinks on and it blinks off over and over. And you stare at it, you try and count out the Morse code that it could be, the message. It's trying to tell you something. And then it moves, and it pushes on and away from you. And Maggie, you see this too, this blinking, this flashing. You're also familiar with Morse code and the beeping, the on, the off, the dots, the dashes. And it makes no sense to you either. You just know that you have to follow the light. Harvey and his mother come back into the home, and she's escorted to the nearest chair, which is at the kitchen table right next to the meal she'd left for him. Looking around this kitchen, there are so many things for you to count, Chris. There's all the tiles on the wall. There's the dripping of the tap. There is a clock on the wall. It's a cat, and its eyes move side to side as its tail swings. The time. You stare at it, but the longer you stare at it, the harder it is to tell time. There are 12 points on a clock, 5-minute increments between each. 60 minutes, 60 seconds, hours, minutes, days, 900. And you get caught in this circle of numbers. Everything you manage to get back to 3, and you have no idea what the 3 means other than it's here and it's present.
Yeah,
and you hear Harvey's.
I was just gonna say he'd be staring then, just kind of slowly pivoting in place, frozen, just kind of catatonic.
And you hear Harvey's mother comment, The radio's kind of loud. I could hear it. Was talking about the sky. And this woman is clearly still fairly out of it. Harvey, who are these people? As she becomes aware of Maggie and Robert, who had kind of been there and then moved on, and now Chris, who is stood pivoting in the center of your kitchen.
They're investigators, Mom. They read my school article, the one at the baseball game. And as I'm talking to her, I go to the sink and get a washcloth and get it damp with cool water and put it on her forehead.
What article? I don't remember. Is it on the refrigerator? And she looks over the refrigerator, and this is the most expensive thing probably in this room. It's fairly new, and on the front you see there are bright magnets which hold up pieces of paper. Harvey's most recent report card is up there, along with a number of articles that you have written for the school paper. I don't remember you writing one recently. Is your father home?
No.
And she looks up to you, Chris, tall figure in the center of her kitchen. I'm sorry. Should I get you a drink? What was your name, sir?
He doesn't answer. He's taking a very tense and awkward scene and jacking it up a little bit by not responding.
Harvey, if your father's not home, we shouldn't have strangers in the house. I'm sorry, I don't feel well. Could you come back later? Tomorrow. He'll be at school tomorrow. You could speak to him and the principal then. It's about his school paper. And still Chris stares, pivoting and counting threes, I imagine. Harvey, what do you do as your mother's asking you to basically get rid of this man?
Yeah, let's put you in bed, Mom, and then I'll make sure that they leave.
All right. And she'll kind of go with you along the hall and up the stairs to your parents' bedroom. It's warm in here, but the ceiling fan is actually working. And it's just blowing around the hot air. But the whir is familiar. And then she catches on to the whirring outside of that neighbor plane. And again, she begins to mutter, people should stay on the ground. It's not good. Maggie, Robert, the orb has moved on. The heat is unbearable. The world is alive with insects. What do you do?
Maggie's gonna push on and keep trying to follow the orb.
You're muted, Sam.
Maggie will see Robert pull out his M1911 and have it down by his side, safety off, as he follows too.
Okay. And it's a struggle, so I'm going to need you both to make constitution checks as you press on with the pursuit of the orb. The thing about it is every time you get a little bit closer, the orb seems to speed up, and then when you slow down to catch your breath, it slows and waits for you as it leads you away from the Kavanaugh house. Oof. Maggie, you dig deep and take a breath and push. The heat isn't important. The heat is temporary. And Robert, you too are focused. You've been hot and sticky from the car. What was a little more heat? You have a goal. And you push on until you reach a chain link fence about 20 feet high. This must be another side of the same chain link fence that you saw at the back of the baseball pitch at the school. And through it you see dense, swampy undergrowth. And the orb just hanging there, waiting for you.
The other side of the fence.
The other side of the fence.
Maggie will look at Robert briefly and kind of nod towards the fence in a very, we're climbing that, right? Way, and then we'll just keep going.
Okay.
Alright, and you begin your ascent, and I'll just use your constitution checks for this. You climb. It's not too difficult. It's that kind of open chain link in the diamondy type shape, so it's easy for you to get the tips of your feet in there and your fingers, and you climb and you hop over it and drop down. The ground as you drop down is slippy, but you keep your footing, and you watch as the orb pushes deeper into this small portion of the Everglades. Harvey, Chris, cut back to you for a moment.
Harvey would get his mom settled in bed with the covers down and a glass of water, and then he'd go back to the kitchen.
Okay.
Chris would eventually snap out of it, not so much snap out of it as take a pause, and he, much like a mathematician, would then flip a page or move to a different part of the chalkboard. He will begin flipping through his cards, and when he realizes he's completely alone in the kitchen, having not really registered the evacuation of everyone else, he is going to flip through his cards, pull out Babe Ruth again, and ask the Bambino if his friends are in trouble.
Okay. Remind me, is there a roll involved when you make this check with the old Bambino?
This is -2 magic points and -2 sanity for Chris, and it is lovely because it is completely up to you whether what he hears is the truth or something he's made up in his own head.
Okay. So you stare down at the Bambino, the man who can call his shots. And for a moment in your head, you see the baseball game, the high school baseball game as it had been described to you earlier in the day by Don, by Coach Crow, by the assembled youths that were watching, joining in and chanting out various details. You think about the maths that you and Robert had done about how far a ball can fly. And you think about a moment that you've imagined so many times of Babe lifting his bat, pointing out to that outfield. Those legendary moments that you'd heard on the radio that you'd never gotten a chance to see yet for yourself. And for a moment, it's as if you feel him possessing your body. You feel like a different man than you've ever felt before. It's strange, but it's exactly that. It's as if he's there and your arms are lifted and you are making the call and you point out the window and you drop down, preparing to swing. And you see them, the orbs. They're out there, just beyond the window. And they zip as if running bases just outside. And they fly through the wall towards you, and you are low and you make a swing with your imagined bat and out. And in your stomach, you know that coming up you have to make a call, and it will be the right call, but it will change everything. The orbs know something. The orbs are why you're here.
as soon as Harvey would walk in, Chris would turn towards him and maybe in a voice that is not his own, he would say, "All right, chum. Let's go track down those balls."
What?
Those right out there, kiddo. It's time to swing away.
Okay. Let me get my notebook and yeah, let's go.
As soon as he comes over, he'll throw his arm around Harvey's shoulders. "You play ball, son," as they're walking outside.
No, I don't play ball. I report on the ball playing.
"You're a reporter. You gotta play the game to know the game." And about 5 seconds into that, you would feel a shiver go through the arm that's around you. Harvey? We gotta follow those lights.
Okay. I think your friends went towards that already.
And in the direction that he pointed as the babe, that's the direction that he will go. Whether that's towards the others or away. And as they're walking off, he'll look at Harvey. "Do you play baseball?"
I don't play, but I watch. I do the school reports. I know some statistics for some of the high school players.
Good. I don't play either. And then he would just hit whatever shit they hit to.
Okay, and you both find it as difficult as Maggie and Robert as you make your way down this street. And I'd like you both to make those constitution checks for me.
Success.
Success.
Success as well.
And both driven on, and you run along. And this is actually back the way that Maggie, Robert, and Chris had come to head to the Kavanaugh house. It's a narrow kind of street that's not really a street. And it peels off on one side, and down that way you see a small cut path which leads along this chain link fence. The other side of the fence, Maggie and Robert, you push into the swampland. Maggie determinedly, doggedly chasing after the orb, attempting to get to a point where she could leap and try to catch a hold of it. So when you make a jump, athletics.
Could I go for fighting brawl as literally just trying to tackle it and grab it?
You know what? Sure. We'll have Maggie aggressively leap through the sky.
She's been made to run after this thing. She's not pleased about it.
Robert's going to yell after her, but I doubt that's going to stop her.
Oh god, that is a fail. But can I spend some luck to try and catch it so it's a success? So
it'll cost you 10 luck.
Yeah.
So you kind of climb up on this tree that seems like more roots than tree, your foot catching in a knot, and you wait because you know the orb stops moving when you stop moving. And you eye the gap, and it's over this swampy algae sea of mud, and you launch and you hit the red light. And as you do so, you think of that red flashing light over the tunnel. Tells you the train's coming. The run up the bridge. The run after the man who had tried to escape. Maggie, what happened to the man that tried to escape?
He ended up under the train.
And in your head, as you collide with the red orb, you hear the sound of the crack, the crunch, of the thud, of a train grinding over metal and bone, of the screeching brakes as the driver tried to bring this thing to a stop. A shiver runs up your spine as you collide with the water, although it's not cold as it had been in New York. It's warm and you're in the swamp. And as you look down at your arms, those long scars begin to burn, begin to grow and tear up, no longer just from wrist to elbow, but from elbow all the way up to your shoulder. And you feel the burning running from the center of your torso up to your neck. And I need you to make a power save, please.
This is not going to go well. Oh, okay. No, hard success.
For a moment, you feel this pulsing heat and it burns at your skin. And you're going to take 2 points of damage from this.
Cool.
But the thing about it, that heat that had been rising, that searing pain, they were trying to get to your mind, trying to get into your head. You'd heard again the screeching of Ira, the call. Try again. Tell me a lie. And then it's shaking yourself out of it. That wasn't your voice. You weren't there. That isn't your memory. The train was your memory. And you have this blinding red mist as you blink and look down, and in your arms is this fragile, translucent balloon. It kind of crinkles like a cellophane.
Maggie is probably, in the moment that she realizes it, is going to stop screaming, because I imagine that she is screaming and crying at the thought of the memory of the train and just that horrible pain that she was feeling along her arm where her scar should be. Out of interest, what color is the balloon that she's holding? Does it feel like a balloon? It's not heavy.
It's a lot like a balloon, but instead of like a rubberized plastic, it's a crunchy cellophane on the outside, and it's kind of translucent, reflecting kind of green and then red shift as it moves in the light, that kind of duochrome effect. It feels very fragile.
She's gonna hold it gently, but with kind of tensed fingers. So she's got a grip, but she's not putting pressure on it. And she's just gonna, I want to see if there's anything else I can notice about it. She's just gonna kind of hold it up and kind of twist it in the light to see. It no longer resembles, I'm guessing, the orb that she saw before?
Yeah, this is very different from that orb. That orb was a perfect sphere and it pulsed with this light. This is much more normal looking item, although it's a strange material to make a balloon out of. And as you turn it around in your hands, you can make a spot hidden check for me.
Cool.
And Robert, you just see Maggie launch herself from this tree at the orb, and you see the bright flare of light, and then it dims back down, and it's the gloom of this swampy area all around you.
That was a success, Charlie.
Okay. As you stare into it, you see in its center there's something swirling. Kind of like when you spin a glass fast enough and you get that centrifugal force that it creates a mini tornado inside. It's something like that. Something inside of it is spinning and spinning, but it doesn't feel dense enough to hold a liquid in it. This is something maybe gaseous.
She's just going to start shouting for Robert, and she's still kind of half crying and shaking, but she's just going to hold on to it and just keep shouting for Robert until he appears.
Robert's got one hand on his gun that's been holstered because they had to climb the fence, and the other is held out towards you in a kind of stop motion. in a very cautious way. This is how you almost recognize this is how someone would approach a suspect who's like fleed, and they're ready to pursue you again or fire warning shots or whatever. And Robert's just like, okay, what are you going to do now?
I don't know. I jumped for the orb, and when I landed, I had this in my hands.
And he keeps a good 10 feet of distance between you.
You can see that Maggie is still shaking, like her cheeks are wet with tears, and she's just holding this thing out. Not quite like towards you, but just in show of it.
What are we going to do now?
I have no idea. I don't know what this thing is. There's something in it, but I feel like I could crush it.
Robert approaches slowly and takes a look as well. I imagine, if that's all right, seeing the same thing as Maggie's done. Let it go.
Let it.
Trust me, let it go.
Do you know what this thing did to me?
What?
I don't know. When I grabbed it, it was like I was back there. I was back there at the train station. When I could feel it. It was doing something, Robert.
All the more reason to let it go.
Maggie is going to very reluctantly place it down and then just lift her hands away from it.
Robert will step back immediately, expecting it to spark up again, shoot off, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Maggie doesn't move. She stays there on her knees in front of it, but she's no longer touching it.
Okay. Chris and Harvey, you hear Maggie screaming in pain somewhere beyond the chain link fence. You can just about see the form of Captain Robert moving around. What do you do?
Join them if possible, but before they would meet, losing his sense of direction by wandering through this swampy area, he would turn towards Harvey, who this is his stomping ground. Harvey, where's the school? From where we are right now, where's the school?
It's more or less on the other side of the swamp. The back of the baseball field is the other side of that.
Point. The way we're going, will we hit the school?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And he's going to go over the fence then, if he can.
Harvey will follow him.
And you both climb over the fence, dropping down into this deep swamp. And approaching where Robert and Maggie are, you see Maggie knelt, something in her arms. You see Robert backing up, his gun down at his side in his free hand. And then, as Robert expected, it's bright like a flare as the balloon shifts and becomes once more the orb, and it zips out and deep into this Evergladal area.
You see Maggie, now that it's gone, immediately unbuttons her sleeves and pulls it up as far as she can. Is there any change in her scar, or is it just exactly as she'd expect it to be, healed over but the same size?
Your scars glow red, the same red of the orb, and it's illuminating your skin so you can see all of the tiny capillaries, all of the veins, and the dark shadow of the bone of your forearm. and those what were healed scars seem almost ripped open as this bright light pushes up and out of them.
She's gonna like completely freeze, and she's just looking at Robert.
Robert grabs her by those arms, looks down. He's just lost. He's thinking about first aid, but they don't have a kit with them.
You can see this. You can see the.
Yeah.
Is it painful for Maggie, or is it just the glowing?
It is painful. It's that kind of lingering when you've touched something hot and like the instant burn really hurts, but then this continual soreness, continual heat feeling of it. It's not excruciating, but it's there and it's lingering.
I don't know what that was. I don't know what this is.
Neither do I. I mean, what do you want to do? Do you want to go back to the car? You want to carry on? I mean,
I'd like for this to not be. I thought it would just be a metallic, or I didn't think it would be that. I didn't think I'd see the train again. I saw Ira too. Ira Hobbs. Something about telling him a lie. That couldn't have been me.
That doesn't mean anything to me. Oh man. Charlie, can we still see the orb even in the distance?
You can, and it's purely by the fact that evening is falling around you and it's fairly dark here that you can see that glow in the distance reflecting off of puddles and trees.
They've met up with us, right? You're great with us,
yeah,
Greg?
you hear Chris and Harvey coming up behind you.
I will grab the camera that Maggie's had looped around her shoulder with Betty's, and I will shove it into Harvey's grasp and say, "You're a kid, you're a reporter kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Get some pictures. Chris, go with him."
Okay, okay. Do we have flashlights with us, or are we wandering in the dark? Or
do you think Chris would have a flashlight with him?
No.
Then no.
I would have a flashlight with me, for sure.
I was hoping someone else would. Chris is not going to have anything. He has baseball cards, gum, you know.
Oh. Just wanted to gum everywhere. No, I'll give him my flashlight.
He is going to point it towards the fleeing red light, and he is going to flick it in the best representation of pause and frequency of the 2 green, 1 red flashes that we saw back in the kitchen. He's going to try to mimic that pattern. Even he'll use his hand to kind of shudder too as he flicks it on and off to create a better seal, so to speak, with the light.
Okay. Ooh, why don't we let's call this, I guess, cryptography. Codes, right? It's close enough.
Yeah. Hard success.
Okay. Chris, you are very good at observing pattern. It's what you are here for. And you mimic this on-off, 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 until you figure out a way to communicate green, green, red with an on-off analog. And you see the orb flash green, green, red back. It has only been red up until this point during this pursuit, and now it's flashing green, green, red back.
Same orb is now, it was green, it was red, and then it's green. It can, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He's going to continue to do that as he advances towards its position to see if it'll wait. If it's going to return to that, you know, almost like, I'll wait for you to catch up, and then we'll continue this merry little tale. And hopefully Harvey's with him, because Chris is going to keep splashing through the water. Or swab.
Yeah, Harvey's gonna keep going, and he's been given the camera. Once Chris is done communicating with it, he's gonna try and get a picture of the changes in color.
Okay, and so you hear the mechanical sounds of the camera working. I'd like you to make a photography roll, if you will, Harvey. You might not have it on your sheet. At which point, just make an intelligence roll.
Okay, I can do that. Extreme success.
Okay.
IR smart.
This reminds you a lot of the camera that you have before been allowed to use for school events. It's heavy, it's clunky, but you understand roughly how this works. And you crank on that film, and you get it set up, and you snap again. You adjust the aperture, snap again. And Chris, as you slowly make your way towards the orbs, it backs up a small amount, and it goes green, red, green. But it does stop as you stop and waits to see almost what you would do next. Harvey.
I was just going to say, as going through, what he's going to try to do is he's going to find like a big kind of palm frond or something like that, so he can actually mimic the color by putting it as a screen over the flashlight. And then, much like Maggie's hand is illuminating, when you put a bright flashlight against flesh, it creates a red glow. He's going to try to mimic the colors using whatever he has around him with the light.
Okay. And you continue to do that. Harvey, Captain Robert, and Maggie, I would like you all to make spot hidden checks, please.
That's a fail.
Mm-hmm. Maggie, you are the only one aware of it. But as Chris flashes using the flashlight and the orb flashes back, and Harvey snaps pictures on the camera and Captain Robert is concerned, you see them, 2 other orbs moving through the undergrowth, approaching Chris from behind.
She will, as soon as she sees this, she'll grab onto Robert, who's just across from her, and just point. She won't say anything, she'll just point at the 2 other orbs and bring them to Robert's attention.
Or do a dramatic turn.
Dramatic turn, and you see it too. These 2 orbs flying in, green, red, green, green, red, green, coming towards the back of Harvey and Chris as they pursue that first orb.
He'll call out for them. Guys! Point.
Chris would respond and turn to look, kind of keeping as much of a periphery between the group that he's left and the orb that he's... So he'd kind of step back to keep everything. But would he see the pursuers?
As you turn, you see them. These 2 orbs coming in, flashing green, red, green.
Then he's gonna
and
try
Harvey,
something.
if you turn, you'll see it as well. Okay. What does Chris do?
He tries to communicate the following... The 1506, but more importantly, as he was kind of going through his process earlier, he tries to connect the 5-letter word that he is thinking of the most right now, and that is BETTY.
Okay. Using your mathematical genius, your analog binary system, your colors, green and red. When you make me, what's called as cryptography again? You try to communicate quickly in code your clues.
Son of a... Can I push this?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so this means I have to get a hard or something terrible happens.
A hard,
right?
yes, or something bad will happen.
Let's do it. There we go.
Boom. Just like, babe, just called that shot.
That's what I was thinking of.
And For a moment, it seems the two pursuing orbs are about to collide when they stop. And the three orbs hover about 4 or 5 feet from the ground and in sync. Green, red, green, green, red, green. This whole area is lit up in these strange flashing colored lights. And slowly they reply. They reply in a mix of flashing colors, different sustained amounts of time. But Chris will say with that hard success that you understand these signals to mean we broke it. WEBROKEIT. And then the three orbs, Robert, you recognize form up in the smallest flying V of 3, an arrow in this dark swamp.
Robert wouldn't automatically think of it as an arrow, but think of it more as a formation. We'll wait a while, and then I guess if they're still hanging in the air, pointing in a particular direction, it will just take him a minute, but he'll kind of get there and turn in that direction and start walking.
Maggie will get up and follow after Robert. She'll spend a moment looking at him like, what are you doing? Where are you going? And then will eventually pick herself up, holding onto her arm, and try to follow after him.
They're pointing at something. Chris, you getting... What are you getting anything? What are they?
We broke it.
We broke it.
They're saying we broke it. Not saying, showing. They're showing. They're solving. They're solving. We broke it. Yeah.
Robert will start running.
Maggie will call out after him like, where are you going?
Betty, I think.
Hearing that, Maggie will run too.
Harvey, what are you doing as the three agents take off in the direction the lights seem to be pointing?
I would probably stand there for just a minute, wondering what exactly is going on, because this is deeper than anything he's ever thought of. And he takes a breath and he's just like, okay, maybe this is a big story. I have to go see what's going on, and then he'll follow them.
Chris would go last, but before he would begin to run after them, he's going to take the flashlight and almost choke up on it, and he's going to point in the direction of where everyone is running, just like the Bambino, and then follow after his comrades.
Okay. And you run, and the lights lead you, flying in close and perfect formation. Nothing about the environment affects them, although it does occasionally hinder you as you trip on hidden roots, stumble through boggy patches, and you emerge on a very damp-looking field, at the center of which is a large metal hangar. It's kind of like a semicircle shaped building above the ground, a single metal door on the side facing you. Harvey, you had no idea this was here.
I fumble with the camera and take a picture of it.
Okay, and make that roll again for me. And it is now, as you take in the scene, that you notice the heavy tire tracks that lead to and from this building, built, dug in kind of over time, a heavy vehicle has been in and out of here.
That's a fail, but I'll spend the 5 luck.
Okay. Thank you. And the 3 orbs, they fly towards this building and straight through the wall.
Is there a handle on like either a person-sized door or one of the larger hangar doors that I can swing open?
On the person-sized door, it appears to have a padlock on it. The hangar itself, the hangar door isn't on this side of the building, so you would need to go around.
We're gonna shoot it off.
I'm gonna shoot it off. I had a feeling. All right,
Yeah.
make that shot. Make that shot for me.
Let me make that shot. It's like 6 inches away from the gun muzzle.
I know. I'm aware.
So if I miss, what? Like, where are we?
We'll find out if you miss.
HG. Handguns. I'm gonna use my advantage. Fuck this.
Okay.
Thank you, Big Pig 50,000. Can use my advantage. No, I'm not.
Okay, so this is what happens: is you go to make the shot, and the gun clicks, and you shoot again. Click. This gun was loaded when you picked it up earlier, but now as you click, 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 your clip is empty. Or if it's a revolver, the barrels are empty.
No, it's a
Save
magazine
this
fed
for
thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll just check inside, see if there's a bullet in the chamber.
As you look, there is.
I'll unclip the mag, look at the mag, if the bullet's in it.
Nope. The mag itself is empty. There is 1 bullet in this gun, and it should have fired the 2 times you tried. There were bullets in that magazine, but the magazine is now empty.
Charlie, this this like hangar, what kind of metal is this door made from? Is it one of those kind of like quite thin kind of sheet metal where the bit that holds the lock has been screwed in? Or is it like all welded?
This is a pretty heavy industrial door.
Okay. Is there anything around like out the back here, like general like debris, old bits of pipe, or
You can make
scrap
a
metal?
spot hidden check. Actually, let's call this a luck check. I think this is definitely going to involve more luck than it is spotting hidden.
No.
Okay.
There goes my
You see
profile.
nothing save for the trees and the nature that are around here. There's definitely nothing as strong as metal.
Hmm.
Are there any windows or portals or of some kind, like away from ground level, something for maybe even ventilation, grating, something to keep the heat from turning this thing into a pressure cooker? You know, some type of venting system that maybe could be reached from the ground if we boosted.
Looking along the length, you don't see it until you really crane and you back up about 10 feet, but on the center at the top, there appears to be some sort of guttering ridge, which you imagine probably has the ventilation fixed into it. So if you could figure out a way up the side of this thing, you could get to that.
As everyone's approached the building, is Maggie's arm still glowing?
Yes.
Because I feel like Harvey would probably take a picture of that too. Because shit's gotten real weird.
And Maggie, you hear the whine of the camera as another picture is taken, and the click and the screwing on of the film roll.
She has a moment where it kind of makes her jump from the flash because she's not expecting it. She's like, geez, kid, can you warn me before you do that next time? And she's kind of blinking to get that, like the bright, that kind of like the flash you get after you've had flash photography out of her eyes. And she looks at Robert and says, Block not taken to the bullet?
I have no idea. And what I want to do, Charlie, is pull the whatever that is action back.
Slide.
The
Pull
slide,
the
yeah.
slide back so that the bullet should eject.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. pings
Oh,
off.
no.
So I have a bullet, and I have an empty gun now. So I'm going to reload the magazine with one bullet, reload the gun, pull back the slide to load the chamber. Try again, I guess.
All right, take another shot.
Is that all right?
Yep. You've changed the situation. Okay. And one shot, one broken lock as the padlock and bullet collide. And the mechanism opens up for you.
I have an empty gun now with the slide.
You have an empty gun now.
All right, well, I'll tuck that in my holster.
Okay.
Are you sure we all want to go in here?
I'll have a look first.
I'm not letting you go in there by yourself.
You'll be right behind me. Just give me a second. And I will open the door.
Chris will hand back the flashlight too. So
Thanks, man. I'll turn it off to start with. You see Robert close his eyes for like 10 seconds before he pushes the door in, and then he'll open his eyes to try and hopefully adjust as he goes in.
Maggie pulls down the sleeve of her shirt in the hopes that it covers up her currently glowing scar. How effective that is, I don't know, because it's like a white shirt that's probably a bit muddied by now, but...
Harvey's not going to follow right behind, but being curious and kind of a dumb teenager, because let's face it, all teenagers are kind of dumb. He just like holds the camera up and like over where their shoulders would be and snaps a picture into the room that they open the door.
Okay. Perfect. Everyone does what they can to minimize the lights. Robert closes his eyes, and as the door kind of opens its widest, opens them again, and there's that blink of a flash bulb, and it illuminates the entire space for a brief moment. Photography roll for Harvey, and Robert, you see for the briefest of instants a large form, it's a craft of some description. It's huge. 4 or 5 people could probably fit in this thing. Maybe kind of close to, not like a full bomber, but like a light bomber craft. Although it's not quite that shape. It's not got 2 wings that stick out and a long torso. It's an entirely strange configuration that you do not recognize. And then it's dark, and you are blinking back the dazzle.
Hard success for the photography.
Okay.
And
Well,
like,
if we had an element of surprise.
like grab, go to grab Harvey. I don't know whether I actually get him or not in my like flashbang blindness, but like we'll just try grab him by the collar. I don't know if I grab Maggie or somebody, but I don't know. It's up to you guys.
Oh, please make him roll for it, Dolly, please.
You know what? Let's roll. We'll call it a 1d2. No, 1d3. We'll see who you grab. I'll let you grab someone. We'll find out who. As this arm comes backwards to grab a hold. On a 2 on my screen, that is going to be Greg's 1, Mal's 2. So Harvey, like, Robert gets a hold of you.
Ack.
Do not do that again.
Sorry, you said take pictures.
Just while we're sneaking into a hangar.
Okay.
He's looking like slightly off from you, like
Harvey looks at the muddy grass, just like I'm sorry.
he lets him go. And instead of kind of sneaking in, he's like kind of straightens himself up, waits a second to adjust, and then just kind of walks in, like just ready for like, even if it's just like a shotgun shell's gonna come out. It's just like, well, let's just fucking go inside, shall we?
And as you walk in, what hits you is not a shotgun shell, but how cold it is in here. It's 10 degrees, 15 degrees cooler in here. And the further in you go, the cooler it becomes. and you become aware that down beneath your feet is a grate, and below that grate spins great industrial fans around and around, and something is keeping this room very cool. There's not much in here save for the large craft, and over on one side you can make out the shapes of some sort of terminal.
Is there any light in this building inside?
There's only the dimmest of light filtering in through a grated roof. The very top.
I will turn on the flashlight then at this point. And just try and get a good look around, kind of shape of the craft. Would I recognize it from any testing projects that are on the go?
Can you make some sort of aeronautical test for me?
I've got aerodynamics or I've got pilot.
Aerodynamics. You're not flying it yet.
No.
No. Not even close?
Some close, but I don't have enough luck.
Okay. This craft is, you can safely say, unlike any craft you've ever flown. There's some logic to its design, but it's strange still. Maybe it's something the government is developing. You can see some logic to it, but it is unfamiliar to you. And looking over at the terminal area, you see a number of tools that you recognize, some simple schematic drawings. It's almost like there's a small workbench where someone is working on this craft. But it's all quiet, save for that soft whir of those fans under the floor.
Stupid but important question.
Yes.
Does it look like a plane?
No.
Okay.
It looks like it could be an aircraft, but it doesn't look like any plane you've ever seen.
How is the configuration different then?
The configuration is different in that you see a large, what looks like propeller on top, like a helicopter almost, but then there are almost 4 wings that come out of it on angle to each other.
Okay.
It doesn't look to you entirely alien. It looks like something that could have been built on this planet. It just doesn't quite make sense to anything you've ever flown.
All right. I'll motion to the others and head over to the terminal, kind of the workstation bit, if that's the same thing.
Yep.
Before they'd head over, Chris would go over to Maggie and do you mind? And he would indicate her arm. I can't see.
She doesn't really say anything. She just holds it out and pulls the sleeve back again. It happened after I caught one of the orbs. That it wasn't one of the orbs. It's like it's opened the scar back up.
And he asks with every bit of honesty, not an ounce of sarcasm, did it ever glow before?
No, I mean it's gone red before. It's a pretty deep scar. It flares up, but it's never glowed.
How'd you get it?
I had an operation go wrong. It's supposed to be a negotiation that turned a bit sour. CIA days.
He lets it slide, takes what she says. Maybe we can use this to our advantage. And he holds up the remnants of the lock, the padlock. He wants to see if this is government issue. He's also going to check the entirety of the hangar and see if the traditional government stamps for the sheet metal, for the turbines that are powering the refrigeration, bear U.S. markings, whether it be military or governmental, federal agencies or something like that. He's looking for if this is private or if this is government.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to call that a spot hidden check.
Maggie will probably, if Chris says this to her, will probably do the same thing because that's what she's thinking now of. Is there something that she might know about? Let's see.
Okay, so same for you.
Hard success for Chris.
Okay. So looking around, it's not on the padlock. The padlock's just a padlock. But you do find, looking at the metal of this space, you do eventually find a marking that does suggest US government. What gives it away, however, as US government is the piece of paper that Robert holds in his hand that he's picked up from the terminal, the schematic. It's very clearly marked top secret, ultra. Every stamp that could be stamped onto this piece of paper has been stamped onto it. You do see the remains of 3 grubby fingerprints on it too, probably in some sort of engine oil. But looking around the rest of this place, it seems as if no one's been here for a little while. It's just got that stillness to it, that sense of abandoned. Save for the fact the fans are still on and the place is cool.
Are the orbs still in here?
Make a spot hidden and we'll see if you can see them. Okay, so you look around for the orbs, but the giant craft takes up a lot of the center of this hangar. And there are elements to it that catch your attention. And Maggie's arm is kind of revealed in issues of red glow, and that's distracting because you're looking for red glow, you're looking for green glow, and there's Maggie's arm, and it's lit up, as described on Zoom, like a Christmas tree. This bright red. And you see Chris's face kind of uplit and sinister from the red glow as he inspects the arm. There's an uneasy feeling in this place.
Is there a way into the craft?
Looking around, it would be easy to find the hatch, which would open up. It's kind of a door shape, and you imagine it pulls open and down, probably revealing a set of stairs, or with kind of a space to hook on a small ladder to climb.
Is there a small ladder around that has been provided for entry?
There is a step stool down by the terminal, which you imagine is probably doubled up as a seat a number of times, amongst other things.
Chris would call over to Harvey. If he would boost Harvey up, since Chris is very big, if he would boost Harvey up, could Harvey get to the hatch?
Yep.
Do you want to take a picture up above the hatch?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to lift you now. He says with all the confidence of somebody that's played with baseball cards and math his whole life. What would you like, Charlie?
I would like strength, unless you have another physical skill that you believe applies.
Nope.
Cryptography, unfortunately, will not apply to the lifting of Harvey.
Let's argue. No. Okay. Strength. Jesus.
Okay, so Harvey, you feel Chris's kind of arms come around to try and lift you, and he squeezes and he wins you ever so slightly as he tries to get a good lift on the go. But Chris, you're not used to lifting things. This is a very strange human being that you're trying to lift, and you just can't figure it out. Right here. Mm-mm.
Whoa, Chris, what are you doing?
We were gonna get to that hatch. I failed.
Man. I want to take the piece of paper that has this ultra top secret "Don't look" stamped on it, and hand it to Maggie with a knowing look and the comment laced with sarcasm of, "This is above my pay grade."
She takes it and says, I mean, it was probably above mine before I was kicked out of the CIA, but she just opens it.
Looking through, you find it is a schematic for this craft. It details the inside, which is a large cockpit area with 4 terminals with a number of electronic devices, including a number of meters. And there's some very technical jargon, some of which will make a lot of sense to Robert, some of it won't. It also goes on to detail how this craft was discovered not far from here, and that the person working on it has been unable to get the devices to work. He's also made an account of a number of strange electrical phenomena when he has attempted to... he's written interfere with the device.
Does it say on here which government agency is responsible for this?
It doesn't say lots of love CIA,
but it screams CIA.
Get that feeling.
Is there a, I imagine that on one of the letters that are detailing something, is there a signature or is there a name sign off that I might recognize from my CIA days? Is there?
I'll take a spot hidden for that, unless you believe you have a kind of social skill that would apply.
Probably not. It would be more of like if one's kind of on there. Yeah, success.
Okay, so looking through and over, you see the initials A, and then...
Sorry, Charlie, I'm making you flip through your notes.
Okay, I gotta find my notes. It's fine. Long is the last name.
And I recognize this name.
Yes, this is familiar to you. This was a handler you had for an operation in Europe.
Right. And is there a date mark on this? How old is this paperwork? Are we talking a couple of months or a couple of years?
The paperwork is relatively new. It is dated for about 3 months ago.
As she's flicking through.
The most recent entry on the log of work is about 3 months ago.
What about the original, the first log on there? I basically want to know how long this thing's been sitting here.
The craft itself is basically dated as being in the US government's possession for the last 4 years. But this site has only been here for about 6 months.
Okay, so it would have been in possession when I was still in the CIA? I can't remember how long ago that was now.
Yes. Yeah.
She flicks through, she separates out all the schematics and kind of just absentmindedly hands them to Robert while she's reading through the rest of it and says, "Oh, wow. Wow, we've had this for a while. This craft was in the government's possession when I was still in the CIA. I know who signed off on this. He was a handler I had for an operation in Europe. This isn't ours. We didn't make this. We found this."
What are you thinking, the Russians?
I don't know. There's...
Still doesn't explain the orbs and your experience.
You were saying...
Yeah.
Yes.
As you go deeper into your memory, recording A long, his name is Alfonso, but everyone called him Al. And it became a joke of along. You're going along was the code that was used. But the thing that he specialized in was Nazi technology, specifically in the weird sciences that they were developing and the hidden sciences they were working on. He was also part of some extractions, which is how you got to know him. But his interest was very much in technology and advanced technologies.
She's kind of thinking of all of this as she's kind of talking to Robert and showing him the bits of this paperwork with the dates and stuff on, and says, "Oh, he didn't... I specialized in negotiation and extraction during my time in the CIA, among other things, but that was mostly my speciality. This guy, specialized in the recovery and the research into old World War II Nazi technology. Not the kind that was released, but the kind that the US government took a particular interest in. There were rumors that they were experimenting with all sorts of crazy stuff. He specialized in recovering it, investigating it, finding out what it did.
Hey, Chris, are there any swastikas on that thing?
No.
Right.
At least not on the outside.
Chris was saying something about they broke it.
Yeah.
Doesn't explain.
They could mean the CIA. They could mean the orbs, I guess. This sounds crazy.
No, they said we broke it.
We broke it.
We broke it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They didn't say it. They didn't say it. They didn't speak it. They didn't. I can hear it.
Yeah.
They saw.
We as in the orbs. The orbs broke it.
We flash, red, green, red. We broke it.
They were talking about themselves then.
Do you think it's theirs?
Maybe. I don't know what to tell you. This isn't what I worked in on the CIA. I didn't get to see files like this.
All right, let's take a look inside, I guess.
I'm weak. Can you help me lift Harvey up?
I was actually going to say, while they're discussing this for so long, Harvey's like shoved some stuff together and is trying to climb up on his own.
Sure. Strength, or I will take another physical skill if you can convince me. Climb, I believe, is a skill.
Climb is a skill, so my strength is better than that, but we'll use the climb. No. Screw it. I'll spend some luck. I'll spend 23 luck. Okay.
So what happens is you begin to climb up this pile of stuff that you've accumulated from around the hangar, odd boxes, a length of metal, and you stumble to begin with. You stumble, and as you look down into this whirring fan, you see the orbs, you see the lights flashing up at you. And you see at the edge of the fan a ripped cellophane ball. But then pushing up, you grab a hold of that hatch and you pull it down. And you see the inside of this large craft. It's even darker in there than it is out here. But on one of the consoles, a tiny red and green light flashes on and off. Small, like an LED bulb. Tiny little flicker. And Harvey is in the craft.
Go ahead. As soon as he sees the light, Harvey would lean back out the hatch and look down at Chris and be there's a blinking light. Red, green, red.
Anything else?
I don't know yet, but I saw that right away.
Would he tell them about the orbs that are in the turbines that he saw from his vantage point in the fans?
Probably, yeah. He after talking about the light on the console, he points down. The orbs are in the fan.
Can we see them if you
look down, you can see them.
If Chris goes over to the orbs, Maggie will go as well, and she'll turn to Chris and say, "These orbs, do you think they're sentient?"
He kind of nods quickly and points to like the mylar bag that's deflated and lying on the ground. Did that look like when you had it?
Yeah, that's it. But you think they're sentient? They can understand us? They can...
Yeah. Yeah, 4 terminals in the craft, 3 lights, and points to the bag. 4. One of them's hurt.
And they can communicate with us, right?
Sort of. Yeah. Yeah. He's not confident.
Maggie has an idea, but she you see her sit there for a minute. She kind of puts her hands to her face nervously and is like, I might be losing my mind, but maybe I'm not. And she'll pick up the same object with the intention of, I heard the thoughts of that dead girl, and she was dead. These things are clearly alive, and they were trying to show me something. My arm's glowing, so why the hell not?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Maggie becomes still, and the light in her arm shifts to green, then to red. And then slowly it seems to fill this half-crumpled cellophane bag. And you hear in your mind, we broke it. We broke your world. We are broken. We broke your world by 15 minutes and 6 seconds. We do not understand. You didn't notice. You didn't notice us until... And at this moment, as they reach the until, there's a sound of something clattering out of the craft, all along the center of the cockpit, down, out of the hatch, tumbling across the floor and onto the grate, a baseball lands. And you hear it begin again in your mind, Maggie. It's almost like an automated message. We broke it. We broke your world. We are broken.
Maggie says
the world
out loud, how do we fix it? Where's Betty? And it must look to everyone else like she's talking to herself.
And it takes a moment, but the lights in Maggie's arms begin to flicker into a new rhythm, into a new series of colors, which automatically Chris's brain translates as B, E, T, T, Y, question mark.
And Chris goes along for the ride. He's just nodding as Maggie is frozen, telepathically communicating, whatever it is. If she can see him, he would just be, maybe even taking so much as her other arm by the elbow in a comforting gesture, not a guidance, but he's just nodding.
And up in the craft, suddenly all of the displays turn on. Lights, camera, action. The various meters begin to waver and flick backwards and forwards on the dials. The displays are lit in green and red lights. All around you, Harvey, the terminals have come to life, and there's a sound of that electric whir as this machine now has power. And you see the 3 orbs that have been in the turbine rise up and move into the craft, and up and through into around the propeller at the very top. And they begin to spin.
But at that point, I think we'll run towards the hatch, jump up for Harvey, and yell, "Get out of there, kid!"
As soon as all the lights came on, Harvey just started taking pictures without aiming the camera.
Okay. And it's click and it's flash as the bulb just keeps going off. No time to reset, no time to turn it off. And as the flash goes off for the third or fourth time, Harvey, I need you to make a power check, please.
Hard success.
Okay. Beside you, you see a little meter flicking backwards and forwards in the red over and over and over again. And you hear the hum of a rising amplitude and the buzz of electricity, and you have the foresight to step back as the whole thing sparks next to you. And you hear in the back of your mind, Harvey, fix it. It's a chorus of voices, slightly strange, slightly alien, as if they'd cut and pasted all of these letter sounds to create words in your head.
Something's broken up here, and I think they want us to fix it.
Maggie will ask, how do we fix it?
And it interrupts that recorded message that has been looping in your mind. It needs a pilot. It needs a navigator. It needs someone who knows the way.
The way to where?
And your mind, it's like a white noise torrent of numbers. And it's a searing pain, and it's the sound of bones crunching against metal, and it's the sickening feeling of things that have gone wrong. And I need you to make a sanity check.
No. I can't push sanity rolls, can I?
Nope.
Nope.
The only way that Maggie is going to be able to recover sanity at this point is if the lovely people in chat at home donate.
Can I donate my reroll to Maggie?
So this is what happens. Maggie, the numbers take over and your eyes flare and the cellophane in your hand crumples as your grip tightens and you tear this thing apart as you try and escape the sound in your brain. And then you begin just to speak, and it comes out as a shriek of numbers and sounds. Chris, I need you to also make a sanity roll.
Oh, it's systemic. This is where we go down.
Okay.
Success.
You hear the numbers and your brain begins to try and latch on, begins to try and find the pattern, as your brain always does with numbers. But you realize there is something very wrong with Maggie. And you see the trickle of blood falling from her nose and falling down the sides of her neck as she begins to bleed.
Robert, as he just... the hold on the elbow has now become one of support if needed.
While this is happening, Charlie, is there any way that Maggie can try and fumble out the that one snippet of information about the time, about them breaking the time?
I will let you make a luck roll.
Okay. No. Roll 20 hates me now.
Okay. From Maggie's voice, as it's screaming out all these numbers, she does get out 15 and 6. And you hear the word we. But that is all that Maggie manages to get out as her voice grows hoarser and hoarser and the sound suddenly cuts off and Maggie is going to fall limp against Chris.
I'm assuming Chris can hold her up.
Yep.
Earlier actions, don't suggest that, but he's going to attempt.
Yeah, you don't need to roll to hold on to Maggie. She kind of sags against you. And the bleeding is continuing. Nothing is stemming the flow right now. But the orbs that have been spinning around that propeller have brought life to it, and it begins to spin too, and the air in here moves not only from beneath you, but above you. And Robert, the orbs come down, and they circle first Chris and Maggie, but seeing them too distracted, they come up to you, and you hear the message that Maggie had just heard, that they need a pilot, they need a navigator, they need someone who knows the way. And Harvey is calling out for help from the craft.
Robert's life flashes before his eyes. He's got a wife and kid at home, and he didn't ask for this. Test piloting was enough of a risk, but he knows he can probably give it his best. And I mean, with colleagues going down and this kid in this cockpit, it's actually the thought of Bobby Jr. And if he was in this cockpit, he would want someone to save him. So he goes up, or at least tries to get up into the craft.
You scramble up there. There's the number of items that Harvey had left behind, and Harvey can probably give you a hand up as well. Virginia, you've been given an advantage, and I'm going to let you roll another sanity roll. Just need to roll better than a fumble, okay?
So do I roll twice on this, or is the advantage?
Just roll once. Yeah, just roll once.
Yay!
Okay.
It's green.
So you will be able to temporarily regain consciousness and complete 2 tasks in this time. Okay, you're weak. Your brain is goop, but you are just about functional.
She's gonna...
Robert, you've gone up into the cockpit. Sorry, go ahead, Virginia.
So she's going to look up and realize that she's grabbing onto Chris, look him dead in the eyes, and just go, they broke it. They broke the time. 15 and 6. They broke the time. They need us. They need crew. Someone who knows the place. A pilot, a navigator, someone who knows the place. And that's all she can repeat. She's using everything else that she has to give them those 2 bits of information.
Chris would actually smile because somebody else knows it now too. And he would just lower her down as if he's holding Maggie up. He would gently place her along the decking or whatever it is in here and turn towards the captain and Harvey because he knows they're not navigators. They don't know the way. And he would move towards the craft.
Okay.
Maggie will just be left there, just in this moment, just repeating, I'm not going mad. I'm not going mad. I know I can hear them, but I'm not going... She's just trying to convince herself she's not going insane. And she's just babbling that out.
Okay. Up in the craft, this thing is alive and whirring. Everything, if not working, turned on. There are familiar things to you, Robert, familiar dials, things for altitude, for pressure, things like a compass, fuel gauges. Other dials make less sense to you. They're not labeled. They don't tell you what they're for. And Harvey, you continue to snap pictures until you are joined by both Robert and Chris. Robert, Chris, Harvey, what do you do?
So even as he's snapping the pictures, Harvey's knuckles are white because he's holding onto the camera so hard. And when they get up there, because he has no idea what to do to fix it, and he's just I don't know what's going on. What do we do? I don't know this. I don't understand any of this.
Chris, you want to help me out here?
Are the two of them in the cockpit and Chris is like on the decking?
I imagined you got inside as well. There's like an open space and then these 4 terminal spaces in there. Which
He'd go over to the one that's sparking and see if he can't figure out why it's doing that, using what he's applied of their mathematical language, the information that Maggie just gave him, anything he's gleaned so far, and try to put it into practice or put it into application with what he's looking at here.
Okay, this would be, I'm going to say mechanical repair, but you can have advantage on it, unless you can convince me of another skill.
I would love to be able to try, because mechanical repair is not great. It's shit, is what we like to call it.
I'm much better at mechanical repair. Can I help or do it?
Can I tell the captain what needs to be done?
Yes. All right. So you tell the captain, you can have advantage on mechanical repair as you and Chris work to fix the problem.
I'll spend 3.
Okay.
That's success.
Yep. And you kind of pull open or pull off the panel that conceals the electric wires and fixtures for this. And it takes a while to figure out which one goes where, but you adjust and you correct, and it sparks back at you, but you get this thing working. And suddenly, the whole thing shakes and begins to lift.
Kid, get down there. Get out of here.
Oh, but what about you?
Just get yourself out. He's really shouting at him at this point.
Okay.
Harvey, before you can do anything, in the back of your mind, you hear the voice of your uncle, your favorite uncle. You hear him tell you the bedtime story he told you when you were very young, of the man who fell to the moon, and of his existence on this place, far away looking down at the earth. You remember when your uncle returned after 3 years away. You remember him telling you that he couldn't tell you where he had been, but that you had to keep going, you had to keep working. What you were working on was worth it. It was important. And it's stuck in your mind because your father, by comparison, had no interest in astronomy. Believed that your working on the newspaper was a waste of your time. You should be focusing and applying yourself. There was no future in the stars, he told you. Everything you needed to know was down here, and it was to do with brass tacks. It was to do with numbers. It was to do with being an accountant. Maybe a lawyer. He could put up with you being a lawyer if you liked words so much. But it's your uncle, Jonathan, that tells you that if you want to find answers, you have to keep going. Because there are answers to be found, Harvey. Just needs a good man.
Harvey's torn because the captain's pretty stern and he's probably a little terrified because there's been gunfire. He stands there unsure what to do as he thinks about this story, and he just kind of says to himself, you have to keep going. You have to keep going. It's important. And after a minute, he looks up at Robert and it's just like, I have to see whatever, I have to know what's at the end of this story.
Fine. Robert will just pick the best looking chair in terms of actual piloting, I guess. And we'll just sit kind of looking at the instrumentation, just like having seen or heard a little bit of people speaking to themselves. We'll just be like, how do I make this work?
Chris would put his hand on the captain's shoulder. They already have 3. They just need 1 more.
What do you mean?
And the orbs come down through the ceiling of the craft, and they drift to the empty stations. And on the screen before the pirate-lit seat, you see a world begin to reveal as the hangar door before the craft is opened, and daylight seems to come flooding in, or what's left of it, of this evening. Harvey, you're drawn to a seat and an orb hovers nearby, and as you look towards the small porthole before this screen, you see a shimmering wall, and beyond it, you see another Harvey, one who is sat there with wide eyes, frightened features, and he waves, and he nods. Maggie, you're not going mad as you climb up the pile of rubble, as you reach up to that open hatch and you drag yourself in and you pull it closed behind you. And Chris, next to you is a display of numbers. It's binary. You count them up, you add them, you subtract them, you move them around, and it's a destination. Longitude, latitude. It's a place to go. And the craft moves out of the hangar door and up and towards the inky magenta of the sunset sky and up beyond the clouds towards the stars. And that is where we will end this mid-season finale, as the 4 team members make their way into the heavens towards the unknown. Robert, make one last piloting test for me.
I don't want to because I know it's going to go badly, even though it's literally my highest skill.
It's the mid-season finale, and I have an advantage, and I can't come back. Can I give him my advantage to roll again?
Yes.
Boom.
Good to know. And we will bear that in mind. We will not be here next week, but we will be returning the week after for some more Skychasers goodness. So that will be the 30th of June. Same time, same place. Let's go around the cast and crew, starting with the wonderful Mal. Thank you so much for joining us as a special guest.
Thanks for having me. This was a blast. I don't know if it's because the vent for the AC is on right above me or just the story, but I was a little shaky at the end there. I could feel it. So it was real tense. I had a lot of fun. You can find me on Twitter at Malhadale. You can find me every Tuesday at, at the Straticus Academy playing more Call of Cthulhu, where my poor character Edward is almost as crazy as Maggie might have been. And you know, before I stop talking, I just want to say, hey Greg, from one dad to another, happy Father's Day.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Back at you.
Now, when I have guests join my shows, I generally ask them what they want, and then I try and give them what they want. So Mal asked me for Harvey to find proof that aliens were real. I gave you aliens, boy. And you also asked me to try and kill Harvey. Now, I tried. Okay, I'm not saying I didn't try. But there may be tragedy at the other end of this flight. Who knows? We do still have one guest space for the season. If you would like to join us, check out the details down below on how you can snag that. You get 2 episodes with the wonderful cast and crew, and I endeavor to make sure you have lots of fun and get what you want. With that said, and not getting what we want necessarily, Virginia, how are you doing today?
Well, that was something. I'm enjoying Maggie's slight, like kind of slow descent into insanity. It's getting fun. I also like that I built her as a very talky character, and somehow she just ends up covered in blood all of the time. It's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to getting to get to some kind of backstory with Robert, because I know that Robert is not a fan of Maggie because of her CIA background. So it's going to be really fun if she ever gets around to actually, because at this point there was a point where Maggie was nearly like just going to say to him that I think I'm losing my mind. So I feel like that is a conversation that's going to be coming up with I know that you've seen some stuff, and I know that you blame the CIA for this somehow, but and it's been kind of cool because I feel like with Maggie and Chris, there's been a bit of a separation because they do very different things. Maggie doesn't quite get Chris, and then actually having a point where she's got all of these numbers and there's all this weird stuff that she's been kind of looking at, being like, why do you keep repeating this stuff at us? I don't know what any of this means. And now there is that. It's going to be interesting when we do come back to see those other relationships with people develop. It's going to be fun. And I miss Betty. I miss Betty so much. But I'm so excited. This has just been great. Just aliens, actual aliens. It's all good.
Actual mysterious Orby aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And how is our pilot doing? How are you doing, Sam?
I don't know, Charlie. I don't know. I don't know.
Did you have fun?
Every moment I think I get something. I think I get it. You throw in another weird thing and I'm like, what the fuck is this? What is this?
I mean, I hope it's a good what the fuck is this?
Yeah, definitely. But now there are mirrors that have different realities. I don't fucking know. Great, okay. Anyway.
This is the thing when you sit in an alien craft, you know?
Strange you don't say.
It's all Windows, Sam.
Windows 97, like the worst. 98. It's 98. Oh, yeah. Army. I still think it's Nazis.
Blame it on the Nazis. So it's the Nazis' fault. While we're blaming things on the Nazis, is there anything you would like to plug? And Virginia, we'll loop back to you in a second too, in case there's anything you would like to plug, because we missed that.
Yes, of course. You can join me and some of these lovely people on my channel on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UK time, to play After the Fire. It's a Game of Thrones game all about the Greenmonts and how screwed they are as a house. You don't have to have much Game of Thrones knowledge to really enjoy the game because we set it 100 years before the books and the shows. So we've got our own kind of cast of people going around and lots of juicy fruits, as Susie says in chat. And it's all very dramatic and very cool. Yes, last time I killed Tom. It was great. I rolled 5 6s as a crit. That means insta-death. Yeah, I kind of killed him. I feel bad, but he burnt a destiny point though, so he'll be back in some way. And I'm genuinely properly excited about that, more than I am about the death. So it was a very Game of Thrones death though. That was cool. Otherwise, I am by day at the Modifius Entertainment offices, overseeing the RPG development. And by night, I am going out on my own and trying to launch a spy 5e game called The Spy Game, very simply. We're gearing up for a Kickstarter that's going to start on the 2nd of July, so keep your eyes peeled for that. For more information, you can follow me on Twitter at RPGWebby, or follow Black Cats, or blackcatsgaming.com. There we go. There's all the things.
And leaping back, Virginia, is there anything you would like to shout out?
Yes. So firstly, I also work at Modifius, where I help make games with Sam. You can also find me on the After the Fire stream that Sam has just talked about, where I play Mara, now Oakheart, who's having some revelations about her husband that she's not entirely happy with. Damn you, Sam. He was a good man. You can also find me obviously here on Sundays, and also over on Sam's channel on Sundays about 4 for the Spy Game playtesting. And tomorrow you can find me over at Scraticus Academy on Twitch at 7 p.m. UK time, where I am running the second session of a 2-shot of the Spy Game. Last week, my players went off to find out who had stolen the bust of Nefertiti from a German museum, only to find out that it was a private collector who has hired some people to steal it for his collection. So this week, they are going to be trying to recover that. They were very successful last week, so this week I have to try and turn them into disaster spies and see how badly wrong I can get this kind of heist-ish to go. Yeah, it's pretty much me.
There is a tradition with the spy game where if you play it, you have to be a disaster spy. Being a successful spy is not cool. You've got to be the worst kind of spy and roll terribly and not achieve anything.
Gotta make sure there's a section in the book about disaster spies specifically. Yeah.
But you know, the beginning, even in our playtest, like all the planning stuff went fine. It's just when it comes to actually doing the thing, it turns out we're all just terrible. But I did once hack a velociraptor, so I'm going to count that as a win.
That goes on the RPG CV top billing. Speaking of top billed RPGs, let's discuss very quickly that awesome trailer at the start of today. What is that about, Greg?
That is the I have a long form D&D campaign 5e starting later this summer called The Realms Remembered, and it has a bunch of my friends in it, so join us. The best way I can describe it, if you were going to give this a title for a movie, it is Baz Luhrmann's Dungeons and Dragons. I'm doing it all in this one, so we'll see if it works, and if it doesn't, I don't care. It's going to be fun. Anyway, I had a blast. This is the best. This group is the best. My favorite moment of the day was when we were presented with a lock, and through time and space in an ocean, Sam and I just started nodding our heads because we know you shoot the lock. You shoot the lock. And I loved it, and it was the best. And Maggie's arm glowing and her going crazy and embracing Chris was awesome. And Harvey's flash into the silent invasion of the hangar, perfect. This is perfect 1950s X-File cheeky stuff, and but just tinged with the terror that you are creating. It's fantastic. I love it. Thank you to everybody in chat. Legion, you're the best. Make sure you join us tomorrow for a little Urban Shadows, Bad Moon Rising at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then we have the return of May Black Roses Bloom. Our DM, Donathan Fry, is back. He's happy. He's ready to kill. That is Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be here for that. We'll be off next week as I go on vacation. And then in 2 weeks from today, we will go mad and fly to different planets or whatever. Back to you, Charlie.
Yeah, I now get 2 weeks to figure out where the hell you're going to go in this craft, because I hadn't gotten that far in my planning. But that aside, I'm sure it's going to go well and you're going to end up somewhere wonderful. And we will have the wonderful Evelyn, Parker Fry, and Susanna Grace joining us again when we get back. So we'll be catching up with Dr. Rhonda Nash and, of course, the wonderful Miss Betty at some point, seeing where they've been, what they've been up to, how's it going after you get hit by lightning in a field in money. As for me, I'm at Frost and Fire on the Twitters. I play in a whole host of RPGs. Coming up next, I will be on Encounter Roleplay on Monday in the 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK slot playing Inquisitor, where I am the Inquisitor. Well, one of two right now. We have another Inquisitor too. It's a lot of fun. It's 40k. It's Mutants and Masterminds. We're having a great time. And then after that, I will be up on Cult. And then, of course, the wonderful May Black Roses Bloom is back. And I'm only on 28 hit points in a game where there's no healing. So that's going to be fine. But no, I'm super excited. We did something really epic at the end of the last one. So if you're not up to date, go onto the YouTubes. It's under Grimjack 25102. It's something like that. And there's
Really
a whole
easy to remember.
playlist.
It's right below. Go right below and you can find the link.
It's a wonderful playlist, and it was very dramatic last session, and it was like 5.5 hours, but it's so good. Check it out. And yeah, so go and check out my pin tweet. That's got my schedule. My schedule's pretty much the same as last month, which is why I haven't updated it. And I can't wait for Thursday, because After the Fire is such juicy fruits that I'm obsessed and can't stop talking about it. But for tonight, I am done. Actually, no, I'm not. I think I'm heading to Susanna Grace's channel shortly to probably talk some more about this game. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. Susie messaged me. We'll do a tweet. With all that said, I'll hand over to Greg to round off / begin our week, as we like to do here on Tales from the Grim.
Fantastic, my friend, and thank you again. And we are going to be going to raid our friends at the aforementioned Straticus Academy. I'll also leave you with the promo for the Realms Remembered. But right now, on this afternoon, as the campfire goes down, there's only one thing left to say. You can't always roll nat 20s or make your sanity checks, but you can always role play. We'll see you next time, friends.